Does it feel like someone or something else is in control of your time? Does your business run you, or do you run your business? Let me show you the time management systems I've used to build my businesses and save my sanity. I'm Craig Anderson, business coach, entrepreneur, and father of 5. In this video, we'll run through how to use a default diary, weekly planning, email hacks, and simple time management strategies to make sure that your business is not running in chaos. It's probably appropriate to give you some of my backstory and add context to this discussion. In 2009, when I started my first business, we had 3 small children. By the time I sold that business in 2016, we had 2 more children. I was also a volunteer part-time pastor during that time period, and that took about 15 to 20 hours a week as well. So to say that I was busy would be an understatement. I didn't get it right at the start, but over time I've learned some great hacks and tips and things to do to make sure I can manage my time well, give time to my family and things that matter most. And I want to share some of these tips with you today. You may have heard of Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's sold over 40 million copies and is a classic. In that book, he introduces a time management matrix, which helps people to put their focus where things really matter most. And it's often referred to as the 4 quadrants of time management. As you can see in this graphic, across the top we have urgent or not urgent tasks, and on the left-hand side, important and not important tasks. I'm going to go through each of these and explain what each quadrant is for. So quadrant 1 are urgent and important. These are the things that you do first. These are the crises that happen that you just need to get on and get done. For example, someone forgot to pay the hosting fee on the website and it's down. Or a team member calls in sick and they were supposed to run a client meeting, so someone else has to step in. These are the actions that need addressing immediately to prevent negative consequences. The thing is though, excessive time in this quadrant can lead to stress and burnout, so we don't want to spend a lot of time here. Next is quadrant 2, not urgent, but important. This is where we plan and we work proactively and strategically. Some examples of work here include working on your business plan or creating some standard operating procedures so you can delegate more of your work, or making time to go out to breakfast or lunch with your spouse, or reviewing and optimizing your default diary. You need to schedule time on these activities. This is the growth and productivity quadrant. It's about planning, improving, and preventing. And so the more time we spend in this quadrant, and if we do it right, the less time we should spend in quadrant 1, which is for crises. The third quadrant is urgent, but not important. These are distractions masquerading as priorities. These tasks feel urgent because of others' expectations, but they don't actually align with your goals. Some examples here include staff interruptions with non-critical questions that they could just Google for an answer, or feeling that you've got to reply immediately to every email notification or Slack ping or message. In this area, we want to delegate, decline, or batch these sorts of tasks where possible. Set boundaries, simple things like a default diary, which we're going to cover off, and closing your email app or browser while you're doing deep work can all help with these distractions. And finally, quadrant 4, not urgent and not important. We want to eliminate these tasks or actions. These are just pure distractions. They offer no real value and often become a form of procrastination. Some simple examples are doom scrolling, too long on YouTube, or playing Candy Crush in the middle of the day. We want to eliminate or heavily limit these activities. So highly effective people, they live in quadrant 2. The more time you spend there preventing and preparing, the less time you spend firefighting in quadrant 1. Now that we understand some basic time management principles, we're going to look at 4 skills to apply them in our business. These are a weekly planning ritual, a default diary, one-touch email, and to-do lists. Let's jump right in. The first step is a weekly planning ritual. You actually have to plan to plan. For us, we spend some time on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, my wife and I, and often the bigger kids, to review our calendar for the coming week and make a plan of who needs to be where. With up to 5 kids in the house at times, this has become essential. My wife and I share a Google Calendar, and all of the things that come up during the week or for planning ahead, go in there. And then on Sunday afternoon or evening, we sit down together and we go through it and make a plan. Then on Monday mornings, or you could do it on Sunday night, I plan out my work week using a default diary. And we're going to talk about that next. A default diary or time blocking is a principle that was championed by Cal Newport in his book, Deep Work. It's a weekly template for how you want to spend your time. It helps to replace decision fatigue and allows you to spend time doing deep work and avoiding distractions. It puts you in control of your time rather than someone or something else being in control of it. So let's look at an example, and here's a generic sort of one that we can look through as a place to start. Now this generic one will work fine because everyone's diary will look different, but we're just going to talk about the principles. A tradie's diary will look different to a salesperson's, will look different to a physio's or a lawyer's or an accountant or whatever. All right, so here it is. And the basic principle is about blocking out time to do different types of work. There are 3 principles that can be applied to preparing your default diary: batching, boundaries, and buffers. So batching is grouping similar types of work. For example, only checking emails in the morning or at the end of the day rather than being interrupted throughout the day. Or spending half a day to produce 1 month's worth of social media posts rather than doing 1 post every other day. Or blocking off between 2 and 3 p.m. in the afternoons to return calls or to do your quotes. Boundaries are setting clear start and stop times to protect yourself and your time so that you can get deep work done or protect personal time. For example, no meetings on Mondays, no answering emails at home, and setting a time aside for exercise. And lastly, buffers. Buffers is creating unscheduled space. For example, so that meetings aren't back to back and you have time to take notes, leaving some time either side of that meeting. Blocking out time for white space to pick up high value work, or blocking Friday afternoon so you can go home early to pick up the kids from school. So if you want to protect your time and energy, remember the 3 B's. So here's an example of some of the tasks that you might like to block as a business owner. Emails. I recommend doing them at the start of the day and at the end of the day. But other than that, turn off your emails so that you're not interrupted, and turn off those notifications too. Deep work. Now, this is your trade craft. If you're a builder, you need time to set aside to build. If you're a physio, you need time to see clients. If you're a bookkeeper, you need time to process things. So make sure you set aside that time to get the work done, and don't be interrupted where possible, and that depends on the type of work that you do. But ask your team members not to interrupt you during that time. Sales or networking time. Especially as a business owner, you need to allow that time to grow the business. One-on-one time with staff or staff meetings. Set aside that time. White space. Now, white space is time that allows you to do extra productive work. So if there's a high value client or important work that needs to be done, if you've blocked off all your time and you have no space, you're not going to be able to take on that work, that new client. So make sure you've got a little bit of white space in your calendar for those sorts of things. And set aside time for other admin tasks like bookkeeping or invoicing. Again, block off that time. You might only be once a week or even once every 2 weeks that you look at your bookkeeping or invoicing. Don't let it distract you every day, but make sure you get it done. As you can see in this calendar, color coding tasks makes it really helpful to see what's going on. Color coding personal time, gym time, email time, and work time. And what I recommend is that at the end of the day, or first thing in the morning, you review that day and make any adjustments that need to be done to that calendar. All right, the next is one-touch email or email triage, which is the process of quickly assessing and categorizing emails to manage your inbox effectively. Implementing a structured approach can significantly save time and increase productivity. I call it one-touch email because you should only be touching an email once, rather than going backwards and forwards to it over multiple times, which is what wastes time. All right, so here are 4 key principles with managing your email. Firstly is the 2-minute rule. If you can action that email by replying or responding or doing something within 2 minutes, then do it right away. And if you can't answer it within 2 minutes, delegate it to someone else, put it in your default diary to be actioned later, or delete it. Now, when I say delete, I don't mean delete forever. I don't know about your email account, but mine's set up so that the delete folder is kept indefinitely, which effectively is like an archive. So I wouldn't recommend deleting it forever, just archiving it. Next is batch processing, and I kind of referred to it before, but setting aside time each day to check emails rather than constantly being interrupted. So set aside that time, perhaps in the morning, in the midday and afternoon if you need to check them that often. Otherwise, close the app, turn off notifications, and make sure that you're getting work done without being constantly interrupted by email. Third is to unsubscribe and filter. Regularly unsubscribe from emails that you just don't need. Use filters and other tools in your email software to redirect emails automatically into different folders. This can be really useful, for example, for invoices or expenses that come in. You should only be looking at those no more than once a week. What you could do is set up an automated rule to send your invoices that come in from your different suppliers into a folder to look at for bookkeeping. Look at that once a week or once every 2 weeks, but don't let it distract you day to day. And number 4 is to use tools and shortcuts. There is software out there that can be used to help you manage your emails, especially if you're part of a bigger team and you get bombarded with emails every day. These are things like Boomerang and Sanebox. They can be really helpful. Also learn some keyboard shortcuts to help you navigate your email quicker. All right, the last skill we're going to look at is to-do lists. Did you know that you get a dopamine hit from ticking off an item from a to-do list? I don't know about you, but with a busy family, work and community life, I have so much going on with my head that I just can't do without my to-do list. Now you can use paper for a to-do list or your reminders on your phone, but I prefer to use an app that I've been using for about 8 years called Todoist. And I just had a look today and I've actioned and completed over 13,000 tasks in that period. That's a lot of dopamine hits. It's really easy to use and it helps me to get ideas and things on my mind out of my head and onto paper or an app in this case. And with the paid plan, you can even have geolocated reminders. For example, you can set up a reminder that when you drive past or go past the post office, the reminder will pop up to check the PO box. Todoist has a desktop app and a Chrome plugin that makes it really easy to add tasks to that list wherever you are. And I use the to-do list as a critical part of my weekly planning tasks, and I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment as we wrap up. So now that we've gone through those 4 time management skills, I want to let you know how I apply them in my life. Firstly, I plan to plan. Sunday afternoons and evenings are family planning time with our Google shared calendar. And Monday mornings, I set aside time in my calendar to plan out my work week. So Monday mornings, I firstly check the weather so I can plan my exercise. I'm a bit soft when it comes to the winter and I make sure it's not raining. I put that into my calendar. Then I go through my emails and I use the one-touch email principle to action or calendarize or delete or delegate those emails. I then go through my to-do list and see which of those items I need to allocate into my default diary. I then look at padding out my default diary with work that I need to do for my different businesses and I color code them to make them easy to see. And that's it. Then I put it into action and I try as hard as possible to keep to those default diary times. It's really important to do that. Otherwise, time will be sucked away. At the end of each day or first thing in the morning, I re-look at that diary. I might add a bit of detail to it. For example, when it says a time blocked out for work, I might add the detailing of the work that I'm actually going to be doing in that day. The good thing is that when things come up, and they often do, with modern diaries, it's easy to drag those different tabs around and move them to where you need to make sure that you get things done when they need to get done. So what can you do to take some action today? Firstly, get yourself a to-do app or reminders app on your phone or a bit of paper. Start getting those things out of your head and onto a list somewhere. If you have a spouse or family, set up a shared Google or other calendar that you can all put activities into so that you get on the same page when it comes to your family goings on. And then I'd recommend syncing that calendar with your work calendar so you can easily see the crossover between work and business. And then finally, make a time to plan with your family each week and also a time to plan out your week and do that default diary. That can be Sunday night or Monday morning or another time if you're choosing, but just make sure that you do it. Well, I hope you found that video helpful. If you have, please like, subscribe and share. I'll be releasing more videos in the future on how to help your business start, scale and grow.